race, a difficult, well, every racetrack is dangerous, but a difficult racetrack to really grab and grasp the magnitude of how fast you can be going on all these straightaways. Parker?
Kyle Larson, who's 6 on the board, from the first run on the racetrack has been fighting his brakes, and after his last run, he had this to say.
The brakes were just a little bit better, not great. The initial back to throttle pretty similar off of 3, and then the same tightness through 2. Well, I downshifted every time there through 2, so I was never really tight off of 2. Notice any difference in the attitude over those bumps? Yeah, I thought my nose stayed planted a little bit better.
So they actually just bled the brakes again, and then they made a massive change in the rear. And Steve, you can talk more about this. They made a left rear chuck arm change. They actually went to a longer left rear chuck arm to help the car turn on exit when he's back in throttle. So that's what they're working here on the 42.
Yeah, and why that's a major change is just the amount of time it takes to change it. You know, you can change a shock or a spring in probably under 5 minutes. To change a major suspension component like that, that's going to take maybe 10 or 12 minutes, which is hard to do in a single practice. But what I really thought was most interesting of that audio, Jeff, and you and I were talking about it, is you heard Kyle Larson say, well, I downshifted every time through the tunnel, so I wasn't tight. And what he means by that is when the car's in 3rd gear, it has more acceleration, it wants to rotate better. When he leaves it in 4th gear, it sounds like maybe he fights a tight race car. So that's a good example of how Kyle Larson in the seat, by just deciding what gear he wants to run through that corner, can change the balance of the race car.
And also it was important for him to tell his crew chief what he was doing and why it was affecting the car. Because if you forget to add that, and you're talking about, hey, I got no problem off turn 2, off the tunnel turn, then the crew chief assumes the change made the car better. He had to clarify, look, I was shifting, I changed turn 2, and then talk about the rest of the corner, the rest of the corners around the racetrack.
We talk so much about brakes and how important they are at this racetrack. You're on the brakes a lot at this racetrack, and case in point, yesterday during the ARCA race, take a look at one of the cars coming onto pit road, brakes failing for that driver, and we'll get another look at it. I know this is tough to watch, but 2 guys were hit. Both were obviously taken to the infield care center to be checked out. One was then transported to a local hospital for further evaluation. Brakes so important at this racetrack, and it didn't only happen in the ARCA Racing Series, which we take a look at one more time here. It also happened, by the way, that was Pedro Martinez and John House that were involved in that incident, but it also happened with Brad Keselowski at this racetrack before as well. See the tire carrier, Jack Man, jumping out of the way as he slides through his pit stop, or his pit box.
Yeah, those are always scary, scary incidents. And what makes this track unique is maybe not how much brake you use. You use a lot of brake at Martinsville, Richmond, Watkins Glen, but what's so different is the length of straightaways between the brakes. And how about this tweet? Great to see, enough whereabouts to send a tweet, let you know that obviously not a good situation, but a little bit of humor. He puts no bueno in the tweet. You hate to ever see somebody injured on pit road. It's scary. I mean, 3,500 pound stock cars, these are very courageous pit crew members to jump in front of them. But what I was saying makes it very unique here is the length of straightaways between the braking sections, Jeff. So it's very hard to say, well, we just need to cool the brakes more. Well, then you get them hot and you get them ice cold. Hot and ice cold, and you actually can damage the brake system. So it's a very difficult track to manage the brakes.
And by the way, Steve, after watching that referenced with us, I never worked on the front of the car. I always made sure I ran out past after the car had already gone by. Mike?
Hey guys, just wanted to give you a quick update. I spoke with the PR director for ARCA this morning, Don Radabal, who gave me some information on 2 individuals who were involved in that accident on pit road yesterday. Pedro Martinez, this is the very good news, treated and released. Not only that, but he's also working on one of the Truck Series teams today, changing tires for Cameron Haley. So he's back at it. As for John House, he remains in the hospital under observation. His wife's on her way from Charlotte to be with him today as they continue to treat him for his injuries. Parker?
Mike, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the complexity of pit road again. And one thing that really stood out to me, or for a lot of times I get asked by fans, and that is that we're coming down pit road at 55 miles an hour, say here, and then we have to get into the box. And when I was a young driver going to Penske, and I was doing pit practice the first time, I was actually coming in the box very gingerly. And they obviously want you to get in the box as hard as you can to make up time, so that overall time over through pit road can make positions up. And I was coming in too gingerly because I was scared of getting into the guys that were jumping off the wall. And the pit crew coach walked up to me and he said, Parker, if we get hit, it's our fault. Now, obviously, in this situation, ARCA, there was an unfortunate situation there. But for a lot of these drivers, the first thing they hear is that if they hit someone, it's the pit crew guy's fault, which allows them to come off at 55 miles an hour, throw the car in neutral, get on the brake, and get in that box as hard as they can. Once again, adding to the complexities of what we have on pit road.
It takes a unique person that will jump over the wall and do these services. I mean, they love doing it. It's competition. We see a lot of guys that are former athletes coming from other sports coming to do it. They love doing it. It's an adrenaline rush, but make no mistake, it is dangerous.
Yeah, and this is one of the bigger pit roads. We go to Bristol, Dover, Richmond. Get even more dangerous.
Best 5-lap average, Kevin Harvick looks to be the fastest at Pocono. Kyle Busch trying to keep that momentum up from last weekend's 2 wins.